A tragedy is defined as an event that results in great loss, misfortune, and usually death. They can surround an individual's endeavors in which they suffer extreme consequences from a disastrous flaw or lifestyle, but often an unpreventable natural occurrence sets the stage for utter catastrophe. The most common examples are earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, automobile, and plane crashes. Throughout history, many strange and unexpected events have caused pain and suffering to millions of people. From these experiences, we learn more about how to predict and prevent these occurrences from happening once again. Today, we are looking at some of the worst and unusual world tragedies and the events that surrounded them. Number 10. Champawat tiger and Panar leopard. The Champawat tiger is a legendary female Bengal tiger. She is allegedly responsible for more than 400 human deaths in Nepal and the Comoan area of India in the early 20th century. This tiger was often seen roaming the streets outside populated villages and would even try to break into huts. She was shot the day after killing a 16-year-old girl. Even today, there remains a cement board marking the place where the tiger fell in the Champawat town. An autopsy revealed that the tiger had broken upper and lower canine teeth on the right side of her mouth, which is often the case with man-eating animals. The teeth often get broken and then the tigers go for easier prey like humans. Around the same time, the Panar leopard was terrorizing people in the Comoan district of northern India. This male leopard is alleged to have killed around 400 citizens, striking utter fear in the parents and children of many small villages. Both these animals were hunted down and killed by legendary big cat hunter and author Jim Corbett. Corbett was an Indian-born British conservationist who was extremely talented at stalking and killing man-eaters. These two animals are widely regarded as the most deadly of all time. Number 9. Dyatlov Pass Incident. In late January 1959, a group of experienced skiers and hikers set out on a voyage across the northern Urals. Led by Igor Dyatlov, the goal of the expedition was to reach the mountain of Otorten. Everything was going as planned for the group of 9 until they got lost and deviated west. Dyatlov realized his mistake and set up camp on the slope of the mountain, intended to backtrack the following day. They never made it, and when they did not send a telegram as expected, a massive manhunt was conducted. The lifeless bodies of all 9 people were mysteriously found spread over a large area. Many abnormalities had occurred. There was evidence that the group fled their tents in the middle of the night as they were ripped out from within. All deaths were thought to be from hypothermia until autopsies were performed. 4 of the hikers were determined to have been killed by a force that could not have been inflicted by another human, their chest and head trauma equivalent to a high-speed car crash. The bodies had no external signs of injury. Some were wearing each other's clothes, one victim had no tongue, and trace amounts of radioactive contamination were found on their clothing. As the Soviet Union was in the middle of the Cold War, the story was kept a secret. The files were not made public, and the final diagnosis was that the deaths were caused by an unknown compelling force. Many have speculated that the tragedy was the result of military testing, an unexplained UFO encounter, or a mysterious Yeti-like creature. And, well, you just decide for yourself, I suppose. Number 8. The Boston Molasses Disaster. Molasses is a byproduct from the process of transforming cane or beet into sugar. It is an extremely thick and syrup-like substance. On January 15, 1919, a cast-iron tank was transporting molasses in the industrial north end of Boston, Massachusetts. On board was 2.5 million gallons of crude molasses on its way to a distillery. It was going to be made into rum. Suddenly, the truck burst, creating a loud rumbling noise reminiscent of machine gun fire. A 15-foot tall wall of molasses streamed through the Boston streets, traveling at approximately 35 miles an hour. It demolished buildings and buried everything in its path of destruction. Several blocks were flooded, 21 people and several horses were buried and killed by the quicksand-like sweet substance. In total, 150 people were injured. The cleanup took weeks and approximately 87,000 man-hours. The cause of the truck accident is not certain, but the vast increase in temperature that day definitely played a part. The temperature had risen 39 degrees from the previous day, causing increased pressure in the tank. Even today, on a hot summer Boston afternoon, people report the smell of molasses in the air. Number 7. Chakri Dadri mid-air collision. Dying in a plane crash might be the most terrifying way to leave this world. Your chances of surviving are fairly low. On November 12, 1996, flight SVA 763 departed New Delhi, India, en route to Saudi Arabia. At the same time, Air Kazakhstan flight 1907 was descending and preparing to land in New Delhi. Approximately 8 minutes after flight SVA 763 took off, it was cleared to climb to an altitude of 14,000 feet. At the same time, flight 1907 was descending to 15,000 feet. Suddenly, the two aircraft slammed into each other, destroying both planes. All 349 people involved in the accident were killed almost instantly, making this tragedy the worst mid-air collision to date. The cause of the accident was subsequently blamed on the smaller Flight 1907, which had descended too quickly. Indira Gandhi International Airport did not have the advantage of secondary surveillance radar and was only given approximate readings for the aircraft's altitude. It also only had one corridor for departing and arriving planes. This disaster directly led to strict policy changes in India. Number 6. The Station nightclub fire. On February 20th, 2003, the hard rock band Great White was set to perform at Station nightclub in West Warwick, Rhode Island. As the band was beginning to play, pyrotechnics were set off for visual effect. Almost instantly, a flash fire began to engulf the stage. Fire alarms were sounded, and a crowd of over 400 people rushed towards the exit. People were panicking, and a crush formed at the small and narrow hallway leading to the exit. This completely blocked the passage. The entire club was engulfed and burned to the ground in 6 minutes. 100 people were killed by the fire, 230 were injured, and only 132 made it out unharmed. It is considered the 4th deadliest nightclub fire in United States history. It was a bone-chilling revelation as news cameras filmed the parking lot, which was completely filled with the victims' cars. The silence of the burned-down complex was deafening. This tragedy has greatly influenced national model building and fire safety codes. It also led to the Statue of Liberty being shut down to visitors due to subpar evacuation routes. Number 5. Basra poison grain disaster. In September of 1971, 90,000 metric tons of American barley and Mexican wheat were shipped to the Iraqi port of Basra. It was intended to be used as only seed grain and not to be directly ingested by the population. The barley and wheat had been treated with an antifungal to prevent it from developing mold. The grain was dyed pink and the bags were marked as poisonous, although warnings were printed only in Spanish and English. Sometime after delivery to the port, it was ransacked and many of the bags of grain were stolen. Subsequently, they were sold to the local population. Almost immediately, thousands of people reported mercury poisoning. Local hospitals and government aides knew something was terribly wrong. Iraqi officials kept the tragedy under wraps until an American reporter discovered the unusual and vast amounts of reported poisonings. It is believed that around 500 people died from the barley and wheat, but some estimate that it could be much higher than that. Number 4. New London school explosion. In the middle of the 1930s, the Great Depression was hitting America hard. In 1930, oil was discovered in Rusk County, Texas, making this area of the United States the richest in the country. An enormous school was built in New London. The structure had 72 natural gas heaters installed in it. In 1937, the school district cancelled their natural gas contract and had a residue gas line installed to save money. This new raw gas line varied in the quality of gas delivered to the building. In its natural state, gas is both odorless, colorless, and leaks are undetectable. Nobody realized that the gas had begun to escape and build up in the enormous crawl space underneath the structure. On March 18, 1937, an instructor at the school turned on an electric sander to do some work in the basement. Almost instantly, a small spark caused the entire New London school to explode. It was completely demolished and approximately 300 to 500 students and teachers lost their lives. It remains the worst catastrophe to occur in a US school building. This tragedy directly led to the law that meant an odor had to be added to natural gas so that people can detect the leaks. Number 3. Lake Nyos disaster. Lake Nyos is an active crater lake located in the northwest province of Cameroon. When there is an enormous volcanic eruption that creates a large crater in the ground, often a lake is formed. These lakes usually consist of fresh water and cover active volcanic vents. When this happens, the water becomes acidic and fills with certain gases. Usually, the turnover of these stratified waters occurs gradually, and harmless amounts of the gases are periodically released into the atmosphere. Lake Nyos is one of the 3 known lakes where a pocket of magma in the depths of the lake gradually leaks carbon dioxide and it forms a pocket. This pocket builds up until one large natural phenomenon releases enormous amounts of gas. On August 21st, 1986, about 1.6 million tons of CO2 suddenly released from Lake Nyos. Scientists predict that this might have occurred after a landslide into the depths of the lake. The death cloud rushed down 2 valleys towards the villages of Cha, Nyos, and Subum. Everything within a 15-mile radius of the lake was killed. Approximately 1,700 people and 3,500 livestock were suffocated by the gas. It was the first known large-scale asphyxiation caused by a natural occurrence. In the aftermath, scientists decided to install tubes in the lake to allow the carbon dioxide to leak gradually and in safe quantities. Number 2. Mount Pelée eruption. The events surrounding the worst volcanic eruption of the 20th century are truly unique. Mount Pelée towers over the city of Saint-Pierre, Martinique, an island in the eastern Caribbean Sea. In 1902, local residents began to notice unusual volcanic vent holes, earth tremors, the undeniable smell of sulfur, and the constant raining of ash on the city. This made the land surrounding the volcano uninhabitable, and hundreds of native snakes invaded Saint-Pierre. A scene straight out of the Old Testament. Enormous 6-foot-long serpents terrorized residents, killing over 50 people and hundreds of livestock. The snake's only escape from the volcano was a path directly through the city. Nothing like this had ever been seen or recorded in history. Unfortunately, the terror was only beginning for the island's residents as a few months later, Mount Pelée erupted in an enormous eruption, annihilating everything nearby. Over 30,000 people were instantly killed by the disaster. There are reports of only 2 survivors. One was in a poorly ventilated dungeon-like jail cell, and the other was living on the extreme edge of the island. Both men experienced horrible burns, and it remains the worst natural disaster in French history. Number 1. Bhopal Disaster. Bhopal is the capital of the Indian state of Madhya Pradesh. It houses the Union Carbide pesticide plant. Unfortunately, in the 1980s, many industrial plants in this area lacked a solid infrastructure and training program. During the evening of December 3, 1984, a large amount of water entered a tank containing 42 tons of methyl isocyanate, an intermediate chemical in the production of carbonate pesticides. The chemical reaction increased the tank's temperature to over 200 degrees Celsius, subsequently releasing a large amount of toxic gases on the city. Many citizens awoke with an intense burning sensation in their lungs and were choking to death. As one would anticipate, panic ensued on the streets of Bhopal, with many people being trampled to death. More than 500,000 people were exposed to toxic gases. In all, it is estimated that 10,000 people died within 72 hours of the accident. 25,000 have since died from different gas-related diseases. The means by which the water entered the chemical tank has yet to be fully understood. The Bhopal disaster is often referred to as the world's worst industrial tragedy. It is truly one of the most devastating accidents in modern history. The Indian government has learned much from the incident and has implemented strict rule changes and formed numerous training programs. So I'm not going to ask if you enjoyed that video, but I do hope you found it informative. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up below, and don't forget to subscribe. We got brand new videos just like this every day of the week. So subscribe, hit that bell, you'll find out about all of those. Also, if you like this video, I think you'll really like my new channel called Geographics. We deal with some disasters like this on this channel, and generally pretty much anything to do with geography. So if you like this channel, if you like me presenting stuff, do check out Geographics. It's linked to below.